Good afternoon, all. Camelback Trading 2724 and the pitfuturestrading.com coming to you this Friday afternoon, February 21st. Looking at the last 2 days of the market profile, here of the SPY ETF. And after a huge range yesterday, I thought earlier there would be good odds for an inside day, at least to start the day. That was totally dismissed in the first time frame. However, even though we took out yesterday's low and took out all the other reference points where there were buys from February 10th, we really had nothing until last week's low then as our real next destination, and sellers really couldn't get it. Now, we did finish down 1% on the day, but they didn't get the acceleration I thought they could get in C period and then again in I period when we made new lows. We do go out with a price probe, not a price probe, I'm sorry. We go out with a poor low. We took out I's low by 1 tick, so the weekly low is poor. We were 8 for 8 wide, but we're never able to get 9 wide. We had a nice afternoon rally high. So everything that the bulls had taken back from yesterday's low, they gave back in more today. And more importantly, we close below yesterday's low, which is the bottom of a 9-day balance. Now, not by a lot, but we did. And you'll see on the charts there's a couple of changes that have taken place. As far as trading today, I had a good day today. 4 trading days, I made money in 3 of them and still ended red on the week. A good amount because of that trade yesterday that really, really hurt. But at least to finish the week on a good note, I like that. 4 trades today, basically. I'm sorry, 5. A period, I did nothing when we first opened. Right? I said there was going to be a tremendous amount of chop, and there was. I didn't do anything. Took a quick short when we took out the day's low. I thought maybe we'd get something, momentum going, right? Just like yesterday, I did that too on the short side, but got very little out of it, but that was fine. Then in C period, I had one of the best trade of the day probably. B balanced, C was inside, but you can tell it was having trouble coming up. So right around where we're trading right now in the after hours, I took a fairly large short position. I thought the odds of us trying to come out of yesterday's range again and start one time framing down was good. And it did. And it flushed out fairly nice. Didn't get a lot much once we got to it. Took it out. It was a good trade. I was happy with it. Came back, D period, stopped the one-time framing down right away. Now we started one-time framing up. But we had lower value all day. All the indices were down big. I was looking for an afternoon rally high. Now, it occurred in F, and I said there's a good chance that's our afternoon rally high. I did not take a trade there. I was hoping G or H would come back up. Neither did. However, I didn't do anything in G, but when H came up, now, I'm in 5-tick increments. We never took out G's high. Now, we got to make it 8 for 8 wide, and I took a nice short position here, never took it out, and then it came back down and rolled that down. So that was nice. Then I took a long in J. So we made a new low of the day in I, but J could never take out the low of the day. So I kept buying it, and it was battled a big time. Every low, I bought it out, added on, out, same thing in J, and I did it again in K. So I had a long in J, a long in K that consisted of a bunch of trades because I started with 20 lots. If it came in, I added, took some off, so they were nice trades. I was very happy. M period surprised me again. I took a really small short scalp, and I mean small. Really thought M, once we had the poor low and then rallied, would come back down and have a price probe. Obviously, we did not. But all in all, a good day, and I'm happy. Okay, let's go over destinations. So, for Monday, our first destination will be F's high of 334.82, which was our afternoon rally high from today. Now, we closed at 333.48. So, buck and change, almost $1.50 to our first destination, right? No surprise because we had a really big range again today. Then above that, we have today's high of 335.81. Single print from yesterday, right? We still have a trend day down from yesterday that never got taken back. 337.26 get filled at 55. And then yesterday's high, 338.64 daily high, poor high. For the low, first destination now. Now, actually, our first two destinations, until we get more market-generated information, are weekly lows. Now, we close at 333.48. First destination on the downside is today's low, 332.58. So that's 90 cents from where we close, and it's a weekly low. Then below that, we don't have anything to 331.19, which is a weekly low. So that's $1.30 and change below that. Then we have 330.67, which is a daily low, and then filling a gap at 330.01, a 66-point gap from February 5th. So we have some wide destinations again on the downside if sellers are to show up. Below that, we have 329.55, 10 wide from the 4th. And then another big one, 327.72 daily low, and then filling a gap at 326.16. That's a 156-point gap from February 4th. And it's also an important level because then we're talking about getting to where the 50-day moving average is. And I think that's going to come into play next week possibly. So let's get to the charts. Okay, so 1 week to go in the month. One time framing up 4 months after an outside month up with a gap. Beautiful looking chart right now on the monthly, right? We did get into last month's range. Last month's high is 332.95, so we came into it to close above it, okay, with a week to go. Very healthy. Weekly, we're one time framing up 3 weeks. However, we're below the trend line, and we closed a lot lower to the weekly low than we did to the weekly high. Now, that doesn't mean we have to take out the weekly low, but if we do, it would stop the one-time framing up and be below the trend line. So that's one thing to keep aware of. And now the daily, right? I said the daily is going to always give you the first indication that there's some cracks on the surface of your foundation. Well, gapped higher 3 days ago to all-time highs. Yesterday, filled it, made a new huge balance, and today we not only extended that balance, we're one-time framing down 2 days. So I have the daily is down. Here was that day that I talked about that took out all those big reference points. Here are those gaps I'm talking about that I just gave you downside destinations. I firmly believe so the 50-day moving average, I'm going to put it at 327, right on the nose. That is right smack in the middle of that huge gap from February 4th. I do believe if sellers are able to take out this week's low, right? My first two destinations are weekly lows till we get more market-generated information. If you're able to take out 2 weekly lows, that's the intermediate time frame that's getting hit. That's something to be aware of. You would also fill one daily gap and then test the middle of that huge gap and test the 50. Remember, we bounced, it's not too long ago, we bounced off the 50-day moving average on January 31st. Bounced off it to a T. We traded as low as 320.73, so we'll round it out. 321 to 339. We went up $18 from January 31st to February 19th. So there's a good chance if the bulls don't get their act together and sellers are able to take out this week's low, you're going to visit this 50-day moving average and close one gap and test the middle of that large gap and see what we get out of it. Will be interesting to see. Today's volume, 95 million shares with the after hours still to go. So we're going to do about 100 million. By far the best of the week. Even with yesterday's sell-off, we were above average, but it was nothing great as it tailed off with that V-shaped recovery. Well, today, with the market down most of the day, very good volume. It's going to be about 100 million. So again, the question is, are longer term sticky money sellers coming in and starting to take some profits? Remember, we're only $6, not even $6 off the all-time high. So if people want to start taking profits, they're in great shape to do so, even if we went down to the 50-day moving average. I hope you had a good day trading. Have a great weekend, and we'll speak prior to the opening on Monday.